In this video, you're going to discover 5 moves to master, some of which you may not have heard of before, that will give you strong, stable, and pain-free shoulders. Hey, it's Coach E from Precision Movement, and today I'm going to talk to you about the shoulders. And the shoulders are the area that I've been working with the most recently. I recently saw a gymnast who was out for 6 to 7 months, couldn't really train, couldn't compete, and had a lot of issues. A volleyball player who I just started working with, so not sure how she's doing yet, but she's been having shoulder pain for 10 years, and then a couple of baseball players who are out for various reasons. So this video is going to be me sharing some really core fundamentals that I've seen necessary for all of these athletes to get back to their sports pain-free and to continue to be pain-free and to perform at that high level. But because these are fundamentals, whether you're an athlete or not, this information that you're going to learn today is applicable to you. So I really hope that you take it all in and you put it to work, put it into practice. This is going to help you to develop strong, stable, and pain-free shoulders now, and most importantly, for the long term. So let's get to it. The first move to master is scapular posterior tilt. This is something that I've talked about many, many times, and there are a couple different reasons. One is because this move opens up the subacromial space in the shoulder so that the rotator cuff can pass through without getting impinged. Rotator cuff problems are the #1 issue when it comes to shoulder pain. And if we can create the proper space by opening up the shoulder joint so that that rotator cuff tendon doesn't get worn down on and pinched every time you lift your arm up overhead or throw a ball or serve a tennis ball, then that's going to help you to move pain-free and to rehab injuries and prevent injuries in the future. So scapular posterior tilt is the first move you need to master. And basically, if you imagine that there's a cup of water on top of your scapula, if you tilt it back, that's posterior tilt. You're dumping the water behind you posteriorly. If you tilt the water forward, that's anterior tilt. You're dumping the water forward in front of you. So scapular posterior tilt's really, really important, and the exercise that we like to use for that, our favorite exercise for this, is the slumpy serratus activator. This move has you starting off in poor posture, then you extend the shoulders back behind you, keeping the elbows straight as you straighten up your posture, and you think about, at that end range, you're holding an isometric, you're thinking about posteriorly tilting the scapula while lifting the arms up as high as possible and keeping the whole shoulder girdle down. Don't hike the shoulders up into your ears, keep the whole shoulder girdle down. This move is very, very important for developing strength in that serratus anterior, and it's key that you fight yourself at that end range when you're holding. You're fighting posterior tilt against lifting the shoulders up, against hiking and shrugging the shoulders up. So when you do that fight and you can get that battle going, that's when you're going to build strength. The second move to master is thoracic spine extension. If you don't have good thoracic spine extension, that puts you into poor posture, which automatically anteriorly tilts your scapula. And every time you lift your arm up overhead, again, you're going to pinch that rotator cuff tendon. You might pinch the bursa that's in there. Either way, you're going to pinch something, and that's going to create inflammation, pain, and eventually wear down that tissue. So thoracic spine extension, this is really important, and it's tough for many people to get because of the poor posture that's so rampant in today's society. So one move to start off with that can help to teach you this is the segmental cat-camel. Start off on all fours, hands and knees, and you could start in full spine extension and an anterior pelvic tilt. From there, you start from the bottom up, you posteriorly tilt the pelvis, and then you flex the lumbar vertebrae, one vertebrae at a time. Then you go to the thoracic spine and flex the thoracic vertebrae. And finally, you flex the cervical spine and look down towards your thighs. From there, you reverse that, starting from the bottom up again. You go into anterior pelvic tilt and then extension through the lumbar spine. And this is where it's really important, the thoracic spine. Extend the thoracic spine one vertebrae at a time. Do not rush it. You should keep your head down as you're working up the thoracic spine, slowly, segment by segment, until you get to the cervical spine, at which point you can look up. This exercise is going to restore this segmental movement of the spine that is fundamental to a healthy spine, but it's also going to activate the multifidus muscle, which is the muscle responsible for extending the thoracic spine in this segmental fashion. That will help to stabilize this area so that the shoulder girdle and all those muscles that attach to the thoracic spine have a stable point from which to work, and also to restore good posture so you're not impinging the bursa and the rotator cuff tendons as you lift your arm up overhead and move it around overhead. Now in this video, we've covered a shoulder or a scapular movement and a spine movement. And this just illustrates our approach to dealing with pain and injury. We don't just look at the painful area, but we look at all of the adjacent areas, all the different muscles that could result in compensations happening. That is the reason behind the wear and tear pain. So if you like this approach and you want us to lay this out for you, step by step with all of the different exercises that we have, then check out our shoulder pain solution that'll be linked down in the description below. The next move to master is what I call the chin tuck. And it's a combination of different movements of the body, of the cervical spine. But if you just think of tucking the chin, that is going to get you to do the movement that you need to do. This movement activates the deep cervical flexor muscles, and by activating these muscles and restoring this alignment and length through the cervical spine, you're helping to shut off muscles like the sternocleidomastoid, which run on the neck, the levator scapulae, which run here, and the upper trapezius. When these muscles are overactive, they create a lot of tension through the shoulder joint, and they can hike the shoulder up, and they can contribute to that anterior tilt of the scapula. So all of these things are going to result in excess wear and tear and excess force going through the shoulder, and can lead to those problems that we talked about before, subacromial bursitis or rotator cuff impingement. To work the chin tuck, we could do an exercise called the wall chin tuck. Start with your back and your head flat against the wall in a quarter position. Take your head off the wall and bring your chin to your chest. Then you're going to think of lengthening through the cervical spine like your head is being pulled up to the sky from a rope attached to the top of your head, and stick your chin in towards your neck like you're trying to make double chins. From here, your head ideally is touching the wall. If not, that's fine. But think of pushing the chin in towards the neck and rotating the back of the head, the top of the head forward. So you're lengthening the cervical spine. Hold that for 5 seconds and then repeat. The fourth move to master is called axial rotation. Now you might have heard of internal and external shoulder rotation, but a lot of times when people try to perform these movements, the movements are coming more from the forearms or more from the shoulder girdle and not from the rotation of the humerus in the socket, the head of the humerus in the glenohumeral joint. So we've got an exercise to restore this movement, and this will help to activate the internal and external rotators, but more importantly, it'll activate these muscles in the proper type of movement, in a clean, pure axial rotation, keeping the head of the humerus centered in its socket as you move around. And it's really important to maintain this, what we call joint centration, because when you move the arm around in whatever direction, if you don't have good joint centration, you're going to put excess stress on. Perhaps it could be the rotator cuff tendon like we've talked about, or it could be excess stress on some aspect of the joint capsule, depending on what position your arm's in when you're moving around. So this is really important for restoring a good, clean movement pattern of the shoulder. An exercise that we like to train this is the shoulder and forearm rotation dissociation. And this one really opens people's eyes to what might be lacking with their shoulder rotation. For this technique, put your arms out to the side and forward slightly about 20 or 30 degrees. From here, you're going to think of external rotation as much as you can from the bicep. So you're trying to turn the bicep up and backwards and get to your end range of motion. And then from there, you maintain the position of the bicep. That doesn't move. And then you rotate the fist and the forearm down as much as you can without moving the bicep. Hold that for 5 seconds, fighting yourself, trying to rotate the bicep more. So external shoulder rotation, and rotate the fist and the forearm down and pronation. So you're fighting those two movements. After about 5 to 10 seconds, you go turn the bicep down. So focus on bicep rotation down. The forearm, the fist will follow. Once you're at end range, keep rotating the bicep down as you open up the fist and the forearm. Let's go into supination and then fight. It's that internal shoulder rotation fighting against supination. So your muscles are fighting against each other, and that's how they're going to get stronger. Now you can do this exercise one arm at a time if you need to focus on the movement and restore this movement. But once you get good at this movement, you can do both arms at the same time just to make it a little more time efficient. The fifth and final move to master for strong, stable, and pain-free shoulders is what I call reversing. And this, again, is kind of a postural type of movement for shoulder girdle alignment. And it's going to activate the serratus anterior, the rhomboids, the mid-trap, the lower trap. And when you master this movement, it's going to help to decrease your activation of your pec minor and your biceps in pulling type exercises. So it could be exercises like a one-arm row or a chin-up or a pull-up. When you get this movement down, you can apply it to all pulling exercises like those. The movement itself basically looks like pulling the shoulder girdle back, like so. And like I said, you can really practice this when you do rowing exercises, but the exercise I like to use to teach this is called the lower trap activator. For this technique, you need a band set up at about elbow level, and you stick your arm in the band with the band resting just above the elbow. Line up sideways to the band and get nice and tall in good posture and pull your elbow down towards your side. This is going to help to activate the lower trapezius muscle. And from here, you're doing that reversing motion. So it's like a row, but you're thinking posterior tilt and pulling the whole shoulder girdle back. Don't let any downward rotation of the shoulder occur. So pulling the shoulder back, holding it for 5 seconds, and then slowly releasing. So again, this exercise and this movement can be applied to any pulling movements that you do. To summarize the 5 moves and associated exercises, first was scapular posterior tilt. To train this, we did the slumpy serratus activator, and you can do 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps holding for 10 seconds. The second movement is thoracic spine extension. To train this, we did the segmental cat-camel. Do this for 2 sets of anywhere from 3 to 5 repetitions. The third movement to master was the chin tuck. And to train this, use the wall chin tuck. Do 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps, holding for 5 seconds. The fourth move to master is axial rotation of the shoulder. And to train this, the exercise we did was the shoulder and forearm rotation dissociation. Do 2 sets of 3 reps per side. You can do both sides once you're good at it, holding each activation for 5 seconds. The fifth and final move to master is reversing. And we'll train this movement with the lower trap activator exercise. Do 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps, holding each rep for 5 seconds. Our approach is a little bit different, and it seems to be pretty successful because the average client I see these days has been in pain for 6 to 7 months. And in that time, they've tried a number of things before they finally make their way to me. And at that point, we've got to get to these fundamentals and work on these before we can do anything else. So if you like this approach and what you learned in this video, let us know with a like or a comment. And we've got a couple other videos that we've recently done that go deeper into these topics. One is here on posture, one is here on the serratus anterior specifically. And like I said earlier, if you want our approach to dealing with shoulder pain that's in a step-by-step fashion that includes everything you've learned today and over 40 exercises broken up into different phases that are progressive, then check out our shoulder pain solution program. Thanks for joining me here today. I hope you learned something new and valuable. We'll see you next time. Peace.